Hello, and welcome to the Business and Hustle Podcast, where entrepreneurs come in and give us a look into their business and their business model. Today, we're going to be talking about corporate housing with Teonna Dorsey. How you doing, Teonna?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Teonna. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, and I currently live in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I've been here for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing accounting. I have my degree in accounting. I did accounting for about 18 years. And about 4 years ago, I got my real estate license. So I am still a licensed realtor in Atlanta. And about 3 years ago, I started doing corporate housing. Airbnb started getting popular, and I wanted to do something similar, but something that had more longevity.
Okay, so when you say corporate housing, define that.
So, corporate housing is short term rentals that are usually or typically 30 days or more stays.
Okay, so we're talking about nurses and business people that's traveling, or just people that want to stay somewhere for 30 days and then move on.
It can be a combination of both. It can be medical professionals, it can be business travelers, it can be construction workers, government contractors. It can also be outpatients from the hospital, people that have surgery that have to stay in town for a while or that are going treatment at special facilities.
Okay, so how did you get into that? Let's start there.
Honestly, heard about it first on a podcast.
Okay, the perfect.
Yeah,
Right.
and what I did first is I went ahead and I set up my company as soon as I heard about it because I knew it was something that I wanted to do. So I wanted to start getting some age on my company.
Mm-hmm.
And it sat for about a year before I ever did anything. But during that time, I was building my business credit, making sure everything was structured. And I actually started off doing timeshares.
Okay.
The good thing about timeshares is that I didn't have to put any money into it aside from purchasing the timeshare ownership and then putting up the listings.
Okay,
So,
so timeshares like the timeshares of old, like when you go down and you get a piece of the property and then everybody can share. Is that the timeshares you're talking about?
no, so the new timeshare, the new way that they do it now is
Mm-hmm.
everything is based on points.
Okay.
So when you purchase in, you get your allotted points, but a lot of them now are doing where you get bonus nights or whatever they call it, but you get to rent the timeshares at nightly rates at a discounted price. So it's essentially kind of like flipping a hotel room.
Mm.
They give it to you for, $69 a night or $79 a night, and you rent it out for $120 a night.
Okay. Is that still happening now?
Yes.
Okay, never heard of that. Okay, so that's how you got started doing this new type of timeshare.
Yes. And it is great. I have about 230 listings on my Airbnb account, and I actually created two separate accounts. So I have one that is strictly for timeshares, and then I have one that's for my corporate housing because I didn't want any issues with reviews and different things like that.
Okay. Okay, so all right, so we're talking about the timeshare. So is that a, let's say that's a condo. That could be a condo.
Mhm.
And you pay for a certain amount of days per that you're allowed to go to that's yours. Is that how it works?
So I have an allotted amount of points.
Right.
So with the points, I personally will use those once a year. I take the
Mm,
family and we go and we use the points wherever.
okay.
But what I put on Airbnb is the extra nights, the bonus nights.
Okay.
So someone will go on Airbnb and they'll rent it for a specific amount of nights. Like say they want it for 5 nights or like for the holiday weekend.
Mm-hmm.
They want it from Friday to Monday. So I will go and make the reservation on the timeshare from Friday to Monday and I pay for it and then I get paid from them from their reservation.
Okay. So is it long term? It's a long term commitment like the old timeshares were?
Yes. My
Okay.
commitment is still long term. And I actually got my timeshare on eBay. So I did not pay retail price for it.
Right.
I paid about $1,200 for it. And then I had to pay like 3 months of maintenance fees. So all in, I was about $1,900. And then my monthly maintenance fees are about $65 a month.
Okay. And that allows you the points would allow you about how many days a month that.
It depends on where I go.
Okay.
I got the lowest amount of points because I was buying this strictly to flip it. So I only have 6,000 points. So with 6,000 points, I can either go to Orlando twice for 2 weekends, or I can go to Vegas. Or if I want to go to Miami, it's a little bit more expensive. I can probably go to Miami once and that's an average of 4 to 5 days, just depending on the time of year.
Okay. And you can Airbnb those out if you don't use it.
Yeah. Or I usually roll it over if I don't use it, and save it up because we do like to go to Vegas a lot.
Okay. All right. So you started there and then it went from timeshares to.
Yeah. So then I started getting apartments. So what I did is I joined the Corporate Housing Providers Association, and that's the association for corporate housing providers. And they have a directory that lists all their members, and they also list other people that are in the industry, like furniture companies or cleaning companies, different things like that. So as soon as I joined, I started getting emails from other corporate housing companies that had their clients that were coming to the area and they wanted to stay at my apartment, which I didn't have yet.
Right.
So what I did with the very first one, it was really neat because they wanted to be in a certain school zone. And it was only 2 or 3 apartment complexes in that school zone that allowed corporate housing. So I went there and got everything secure, got the apartment. I ordered all my furniture on Amazon and got everything ready for when the guests came. And they stayed for about 4 months. They were buying a house. They were moving from North Carolina to Georgia.
Okay. When you say apartment, so are you renting an apartment and then turning it into corporate housing? Is that how it works?
Yes.
So that's the everyday apartment building, or is it like certain apartment buildings let you do it, certain apartment buildings won't? How does that work?
It's you have to get a corporate lease. So certain complexes will allow it, some don't. And usually the ones that do allow it, they have like a percentage, like they do 10% of their apartments can be corporate units.
Okay. So how does someone find that out? In my area over here in the Memphis Hospital District, they're remodeling a old apartment complex. So it's about to be about probably 50, 60 apartments in the medical district. Do you go talk to the builder or the would-be apartment manager and ask them like, hey, do y'all have set aside apartments for corporate housing? Is that how you go about that?
Yeah, like the builder or the property manager, whoever you can talk to. And I just say be honest and let them know, especially if it's in the medical. Say, hey, I have a contract, or I'm looking to get a contract with some travel nurse agencies that are looking to staff nurses for this hospital here. Do you allow corporate housing?
Okay, so basically just like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of them already know what that is.
Yeah, and you can say, do you allow corporate leases? Either term is fine. They know what it is, and if they don't, you just explain it to them that you have guests that stay for extended periods of time on contract work.
Okay, how do you get around? Somebody asked a question. Some states let you claim residency after 30 days.
So the first thing is I always have everyone sign a lease. My leases are month to month. And outside of that, I haven't had an issue with anybody trying to stay or claim residency. But if you do, you have to make sure that you have your paperwork in order and always give them a check in and check out date. Like on my lease, even if they're going to be staying for 3, the lease says that they're going to be there from whatever the first day of the first month is to the last day of the first month. So
Okay.
anything past that, it says that they can renew on a month to month basis, but it can be terminated at any time. So that's in my paperwork, and that's good for the state that I'm in. So I would definitely check whatever state that you're in, the tenant laws, and make sure that you have the correct verbiage in your leases.
Okay. Okay, so that's where you're currently at now. What's so you went from to the apartments. Is that what you're currently doing?
Yes. So from there, I just scaled up. Now I have 7 apartments. I no longer have the very first one, because that particular complex, they required background checks for every person that stayed.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that bad considering that everybody is staying usually a couple months. But some people are skeptical with giving you their personal information, because to do a background check, they have to give you a little bit more than, just their name and address.
Right.
So a lot of people didn't feel comfortable with it, and it was something I just didn't want to deal with. So after the first year, I ended that lease and I replaced that unit somewhere else.
Okay, so you say you have 5 apartments. Are those in the same building?
I have 6 all in the
6.
same complex, and then I have 1 in a different complex, but it's under the same management company.
Okay. So getting cool with the management company is a good thing because you can find out other areas that they have apartments.
Yes.
Is that a
Like what
hack?
I did when I got my first apartment at the first complex, I was like, well, they let me in, so let me see what other properties they have. And I didn't at that point have a good relationship with the property manager, but I had a good relationship with the leasing agent. And she let me get the second one. So I said, well, I'm going to go to the property that's in the city and get one. And my idea was to kind of branch out and scale up on both properties. But what happened with the property in the city is when I got that one, that was right before COVID happened.
Hmm.
And next thing you know, everybody in that building was doing Airbnb. So it got hot real quick.
Right, right.
And luckily at the time I had a long-term guest, so I wasn't on Airbnb, and I try not to be on Airbnb for the most part,
Mhm.
unless it's in between stays. But they literally went through and had the maintenance guy going from unit to unit and was putting people out left and right.
Okay, because they was illegal Airbnb.
Yeah, because okay, so some complexes will allow a corporate lease, but especially now after the whole Airbnb boom, most of them do not allow Airbnb.
But they separate corporate leases as being different
Yes,
because it's long
because
time.
anybody can get a corporate lease. Like, say, for instance, with your trucking company,
Hmm.
if you get a contract to do port loads in Savannah and you have a driver that's here, but they're willing to stay in Savannah, during the week and they'll come home on the weekends or whatever, you can go down there to an apartment complex and say, hey, I'm a trucking company. I have a trucker that's going to be doing a 6-month contract here and we need to get a corporate apartment. And they'll say, okay. And that's where he will stay while he's there. And that will help you cut down on hotel costs. And, it's a win win for everybody.
Okay, all right.
So you don't have to be a corporate housing company to get a corporate lease.
Okay, all right. So do you so you find your customers or the tenants, the people that's looking, they go through a website? Do they go through that organization that you're in? How do you attract customers or
Um,
tenants rather?
First thing is I put my units on all of the available platforms, and they also have my own direct bookings. The second thing is I reach out to travel nurse recruitment agencies. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups that have travel nurse jobs because I want to see what's coming in my area. So where the most of my apartments are, I'm less than a mile from my hospital,
Hmm.
and they are now expanding that. So I watch and see what jobs are coming, and then I'll reach out to the recruiter. Hey, I see you're hiring for 4 RNs at this hospital. I have apartments that are within a mile of there.
Okay, all right. So you got a network set up to where, because this one I heard about. What's is one for the nurses? What's it called?
Furnish finders.
Furnish Finder. Was that
Yeah.
that's one of the sites you can go and
Yes, I'm on there too. I've only gotten one actual reservation from Furnish Finders, but here recently I've started getting a lot more inquiries.
okay. Now, where's the optimal place for someone to look for corporate housing somewhere? Would that be a hospital?
I would say either a hospital, or it can also be somewhere near a large business park where a lot of different corporations are. But I like to stick close to hospitals because generally not only are you attracting the hospital staff, you're attracting patients, you're attracting like construction workers, because I now have some construction workers that are working on the hospital.
Oh, okay. That stand for the month.
But also near convention centers as well.
Okay. So downtown areas are great.
It depends. The one that I have downtown, the thing about downtown usually is that's where everyone flocks to. So the more availability, the more they're going to drive their prices down.
Right.
So if you're going to be in a downtown area, you have to then add value, because you have to show why your price is your price and what you have better than the next person.
Okay. So that's one of your basically gonna be your specialty. That's what you prefer, long-term rentals.
Yes.
Okay.
I like it because it's a different type of guest. You don't really have to worry about the parties or, things like that happening. It's generally going to be somebody who really wants to have a place just like their home. They want to cook every day, or they want to bring their kids with them. A lot of times they want to bring pets. I personally don't allow pets, but a lot of hosts do.
Mhm.
And then, especially if you're working with the nurses, a lot of times the nurse will be here and either her husband will come with her, or her husband wants to come on the weekends,
Mhm.
and the husband might work remotely, different things like that. So they want to be somewhere where they can be comfortable, that has Wi-Fi, where they can, stretch out.
Okay. So if somebody wants to get into this business, what should they be looking into? What kind of initial investment should they be looking into? What would be step one?
Step one is getting your business set up properly and building your business credit.
Okay.
Because what you don't want to do is get into it and spend all of your personal money, and if it's not rented out or different things like that, you want to make sure that you have reserves, and preferably other people's money in reserves and not your own.
All right.
If you do it right, you can pay for the deposit, the first month's rent, and get all your furniture without having to come out of pocket.
Okay. So business credit, being able to all right, what is an initial investment look like?
It can be $0.
Well, I'm like the expense. What is the expense? The expense is the down payment,
Oh, so the
first and last month
expenses would
rent.
be, yeah, the down payment or the deposit if they charge you one, because a lot of the complexes didn't charge me a deposit because I was a business.
Okay.
But they charge a higher application fee. So instead of a deposit, I had to pay like a $125 application fee versus like a $50 application fee.
Okay. And
And
then
then first month's rent,
mhm.
furniture, you're going to want to get keyless locks. I like the August locks for apartments because you don't have to take anything off and it goes on the inside, so no one knows it's there.
Okay.
And also you can use it with the app or the keypad, which I prefer the keypad. Sometimes the app is a little tricky, or you do have people who don't want to download the app. For
Okay.
the first couple, I actually just had lock boxes and I left them the key, which it was fine for a little while, but I realized I couldn't tell if they were there or not, like if they were supposed to check out. So sometimes guests don't check out when they're supposed to check out. And unless you're there, you don't know if
Mm.
they're actually gone or not. So a good thing that I like about the locks is you can check and see when the last time the door opened, door closed, things like that.
Right. Right. Okay. Proof of income. Is that something that they ask you about if you try to rent or do corporate housing with the building?
Yes, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It just depends. So you always want to have that on standby.
So first thing you do, first step one is is business credit. Have business credit ready.
Yes.
That's because you have to be able to foot the bill at the end of the day.
Right.
Started. All
You
right.
want to have at least 2 to 3 months of reserve,
Mm.
because in case it doesn't get rented out right away,
Right.
or in case something happens and you have to replace furniture or there's an emergency, anything can happen. So
Right.
you want to have cushion. Worst case scenario, you're good, for 3 months. And that's
Right.
not just 3 months of rent, that's 3 months of everything. Utilities, expenses, toiletries, everything. You want to have everything in reserves.
Okay. And all right. And so when you do yours, now that you're in the business, when you get a new apartment, how long does it usually take before you get your first tenant?
I try to get my tenant first.
Before you even get the apartment?
Yes. So what I do is, first thing is researching the area. You want to know if there is demand in that area. If there are other people that are doing short-term rentals in that area, how much are they charging? How long are they staying rented? Because not every area is good for 30-day stays. So you definitely want to do your research and make sure that you are making the right investment in the right neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Then you want to call around and see, okay, who allows corporate leases in this area? And you're going to want to make a list of this, because even if you go and decide, okay, I want to go with property A this time, but property B and C do allow corporate leases, so that may be an option at a later time. So you always want to keep a list of who allows it.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to talk to them and see what are their conditions. Okay, you don't want me to do Airbnb, but I have my own platform. I'm a corporate housing company. I advertise through corporate housing providers. And most of them have no problem with that. After that, the next thing is figuring out how you're going to get furniture and what type of furniture you're going to have. The first apartment that I got, I bought all of my furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And I installed it all. And I realized really quickly, I didn't want to do that too many more times.
Right. I think I remember you did a video on that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So through the association, a company reached out to me, and this was during the pandemic. Everything was slow. And they were like, hey, we're a corporate housing furniture rental company, and we'd like you to try us out. We'll give you a couple months free and see what if you like the service. And I was like, okay, sure. And I love the service. That's 100% what I do now. If I have a new apartment, I schedule everything in advance, and from start to finish, from when I get the keys to when the apartment is ready to be rented, can take 4 or 5 hours tops.
Okay. And now what service is that again?
It's the company, I'll have to give you the name, but it's a corporate housing furniture rental company.
Okay. All
So
right.
they're in the industry. It's not like a regular, like Rent a Center or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
They rent furniture specifically for corporate housing companies.
Wow. That's
And
nice.
they have a 90-day minimum. So you have to at least pay for 90 days.
Right.
But most of my furniture I've had over a year at this point.
So do you have to, when you get the furniture, do you have to pay, what is it, like a weekly amount, monthly amount,
It's a
all up
monthly
front?
amount.
Okay. So you pay monthly and then they come, they install it, they set everything up for you.
Yep, they set everything up, and you can get any and everything. They have decor, they have washer and dryers.
All
Most of my
right.
units came with the washer and dryer, and I put up my own decor. So I have them come in and bring the furniture. They fully stock the kitchen, pots and pans, silverware. They bring the fire extinguishers, the plungers for the toilets. They set up everything as if the guest is checking in after they leave.
Okay. All right. And is this the data? Where do you get the data that you were saying you need to look for before you even do the business? What people charging already and the demand in the area? Where are you getting this data from?
You're going to search the rental platforms.
Okay.
Everywhere where you're going to list your property, you want to search those same platforms to see what's already listed in that area.
Okay. Similar to somebody want to open an Airbnb, you want to check the other
Mhm.
Airbnbs in the area.
Yep.
Okay. And how many platforms? I mean, give me some examples of the platforms that I know we talked about. Finder.
Well,
What
you're
was
still
it?
going to get on Airbnb because it's very easy, and they already have people that are on there. It's
So
more easy.
they do 30-day housing on
Yes. So when
Airbnb.
you set up your
Oh, okay.
profile, you just set it for minimum 30 days.
Okay. All right. So Airbnb is one.
The next one would be VRBO.
Okay. The usual suspects.
Hmm. Yep.
Okay.
And then outside of that, Furnish Finder, there's Travelers Haven that specializes in travel nurse housing. And there's a couple other special ones that have niche guests that you can register for. But the
Hmm.
main thing is you also want to be on Google.
All right.
You can claim your Google business profile. You want to make sure all of your information is up to date, your address, your phone number. This is where it comes important to have a physical address that's not your home, because as soon as you put an address in on your Google business profile, it's going to add a map and a satellite picture of wherever that location is.
Okay. All right. So you say claim the location for the apartments
So
or
what
just
you're
for
going
your
to do for
business?
your business,
Okay.
because they have an option on Google My Business where you can add products, but instead of products, we're going to put our apartments there.
Oh,
So we're going to put our listings on our Google profile.
okay.
And
All
the
right.
key to that is really getting reviews. Once you have 5 reviews, you'll notice you'll start getting phone calls, because once you have 5 reviews, Google's going to start pushing you up in the search results.
Okay.
So
So
I've
that's
gotten a lot, about 70% of my guests have come straight from Google.
all right. That's somebody on Google searching. I'm in an area I'm looking for corporate housing. That is something people are out here
Hmm.
looking for. Man, I'm way off base. I had no idea.
Yeah, because it's also people that their lease is ending and they don't have anywhere to go, or they're moving to this area, or they're selling their house and haven't found a new house yet, or they are buying a new construction house and it's not going to be ready for a couple months. It's a lot of different scenarios, and they're like everyone else. We all go to Google first to find whatever we
Right.
need.
Oh, okay, okay. So this is a good business for someone to do remotely.
Yes. The only thing is, if you are remote, you want to have somebody at least within 45 minutes to an hour of your properties. You can hire a property manager or have someone that you know and trust that can go and check on your properties if there is an issue.
Okay. So how much time do you put into the business? And is it like a seamless, like here, like you say, you give them the code after 30 days, I guess you get cleaners to come in and to get the house back ready for the next guest. How does that work with your time and, and running the apartment?
So I put check-in time at 4 o'clock. Checkout time is at 11. And I use a channel manager. I use Guesty for hosts. It used to be called Your Porter. And it syncs everything together. And then for cleaner, I use Turnover B&B. So whenever there's a reservation that's made, it automatically creates a cleaning project. So the cleaner knows on checkout day at 11 a.m., they need to be there to clean.
Okay.
And as far as my time, the reason I like the 30-day plus stays is because once my units are booked, it's really not much to do. Like once they're booked, they're booked.
Right.
There's the occasional, I can't work my TV, or sometimes I use the Roku TVs, and sometimes if it's raining a lot, they'll come off, disconnect from the Wi-Fi, different things like that. So I may have to remotely connect that back in or something like that. But for the most part, only on the first.
So what's the average stay that you get? How many months does the average person book
Well, with
from you?
travel nurses, it's typically a minimum of 13 weeks, or it can be up to 6 months. I like people that want to stay 6 months or more,
Okay.
because the longer that they stay, the less that I have to do,
Mm.
and the less that I have to pay cleaners and different things like that, unless they want to do mid-stay cleanings. Haven't had a lot of that since COVID, but pre-COVID, a lot of people like that, at least having a cleaner come bi-weekly to freshen up.
Okay. So let's talk about the money. The money. What are we talking about for these places? What kind of are they above market rent?
They are above market rent. And the key is to find a community or a property that is renting, as far as what you're going to pay for rent, on the lower level, but that is in a decent area that you can spruce up, add value, paint, add different things to make it feel like home, to justify you charging more. And the formula that I use as far as profit is I add in my rent, all my utilities, any extras that I'm paying, my channel manager, pricing manager, everything that's associated with that unit, toiletries, linens, everything, and get that into a monthly amount. And then I add my profit onto that. So I like to add 1,000 to 1,500 on top of whatever my expenses are, and that's my profit
Okay, and monthly.
monthly. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's excellent. So, do you teach people or help people get into the business?
I do.
Okay, tell us about that. How does that work?
I have a course. I haven't released it publicly, but it's called Corporate Housing Boss. And initially, I started teaching people that were already running Airbnbs who wanted to transition into doing longer stays. Because here in Atlanta, recently they had different regulations that came out, essentially banning Airbnbs and different things like that unless you register with the city. And a lot of people don't want to do that. So instead of having to get rid of their units or sell all their furniture, different things like that, you can convert it into a corporate housing unit and have the longer stays, which then you're outside of those restrictions because those restrictions apply to stays 28 days or less.
Oh, okay. All right. So, where can people reach you?
You can reach me on Instagram. I am at Teonna.theboss.
Mm. All right. And when will the course come out?
I haven't. I've only released it for select people.
Okay.
But if you're interested, hit me up. It's on my website. I have Boss Up University. It is bossup.university. And you can check it out there.
I'm definitely going to check it out. Well, this has been a great interview. I definitely appreciate it. You educated me. I didn't know about all of this stuff.
Yeah, it's a great way to make some, I wouldn't say it's completely passive, but it's definitely semi-passive. And if you add in a virtual assistant and a virtual team to help manage some of these things, you can really get it to be passive.
All right. I want to say thank you to our guest, Teonna Dorsey. I'm going to leave her information, her website. Y'all go check her out, learn some of this corporate housing stuff, get you a new stream of income. Any last words you want to say to the people?
With any business, the main thing is your foundation. You want to make sure that your finances are together, that your business is set up correctly, and that you definitely build that business credit. I don't think a lot of us think about it, but there's so much that you can do and expand your business quickly or faster than you would if you were paying for it out of pocket.
All right. And that's it. Appreciate it.